2023 10/28, Matthew Perry, Obituary News, GP7A. Um, Book of Matthew at 9. When you think about algorithms, and that's what I do, it triggers me. And in the 80s, well, I worked in LA since 1967 when I was 7 years old. I ran Candy Cruise, but I lived in Arizona. But my dad, I was a free reign student, kid, you name it. I had free reign. I could pretty much do whatever I wanted to do. And my dad, I thought he could always find me, and I always wondered why. As I got older, I realized why. And anyway, so I sold candy. I was making $50 to $150 a night in Hollywood. But we worked, and I'd recruit from East LA and Watts area because most white kids weren't allowed to sell candy. It was too dangerous going up to people's doors. But we were allowed to. We were the minority strong that had to do other things where we couldn't survive in other ways. In the, I would call it the white man's world, because it was their world at that time. And I was adopted in a very strict Irish Roman Catholic Republican military family from Brooklyn, New York. And we went to Brooklyn every vacation my dad had. My dad was an engineer, master's degree. Some of his stuff has been misconstrued by people that don't know my dad. They came in afterwards and they think they know everything, and then the other family gets pushed away, and the new family gets everything, and all the life insurances, all the property, and those are gold diggers to me. And that's a whole different story. But uh, that it's weird when you're chosen and then you get kicked out of school. I was expelled from my high school, which I wasn't doing very well. Most people helped me in school. If it wasn't for my friends, I don't even know how I would have gotten through school, period. Took on a bully, and at that point, I was known as a fighter. I've always been a fighter, and the bully kind of took on my little brother in a bad way and told him he's going to give him a sidewalk sandwich because my brother, my youngest brother, and two girls called him Ronald McDonald, and he told me he's going to give him a sidewalk sandwich and put his face on the sidewalk and yada yada yada. The point here that I'm trying to make is that when in the 80s there were certain things that certain people could do. And I got there in 1985. I was driving a 1977 maroon Corvette with a luggage rack. And it was the year they stopped calling it the Stingray. It had a little alarm that you could put into the fender and turn it, and had some pretty cool stuff in it, and it was fast, very, very fast. I got from Phoenix, Arizona to Los Angeles when my wife was in distress um, in 5.5 hours. So you can tell me how I drive. And the accidents I've been in have never been my fault. Wasn't speeding. I was doing things the way you're supposed to, and then you get hit by someone else that's speeding really fast when in an area that they shouldn't be speeding fast in. There's one thing being on an open road and there's no cars, but you got to worry about debris in the street if you're driving 150, 200 miles an hour, especially on a motorcycle. There's just, until you do it, you can't talk about it. So I don't listen to nobody that's never done that. If you've never driven on a motorcycle at 120, 150, 200 miles an hour, okay? I don't want to hear nothing. And so that's where we're going with this conversation, is about the power of what Maddie, I call him Maddie. I met him. And back in the 80s, 85, young cats were able to hang out in Hollywood and be able to go in and out of some of the restaurants of the places. And about 89, when you talk about kindness, this guy is the most kindest guy. I only met him a second, and he was funny instantly. Like he was just a funny guy. But I knew that even then, because I helped a lot of people that needed it. They didn't want it. See, you have to have want help to get help, but you gotta need the help. You gotta need the help. And I think with him is that he was bigger than light. He was bigger than what most people say and do. And whatever they try to bring up in his past, I want to bring up what he is for the future based off algorithms. And when you think about when the day he died adds up to nine, at nine, and when you understand the 1369 or the 369 mathematical equations and binary codes and alphabetical um, lyrics, texts, emails are now all pattern matched to everything we do. And so, what Matthew Perry in his book and what he did and what he thrived for adds up to nine. And when you think of how old he was when he passed away, 54, and it's nine. When you think about that, this was 9 hours ago. Everything that I do is based off algorithms, based off highly advanced, look into the future type of stuff that most people that are running the governments right now have no clue. Well, some do. And those aren't allies, folks. But from what I've come across, they already know how to control wormholes. They digital wormholes. They already know how to take over a grid, and our Homeland Security has its hands full, along with the FBI, in regards to trust. More people trust Homeland Security than they trust the FBI. And I say all this because when you think about law enforcement and their abilities to spin things and make things worse for somebody, okay? Like I've noticed that some of the articles are coming out about Maddie that um, say that they're going to talk about his past, and it's because of his past, his drug use at such an early age. And when you think about how much he took in order to have a colon rupture because of opioids, is um, is something that is shocking. And I say this because what happened is what I think happened, just what artificial intelligence tells me what happened before law enforcement, and that's what's in this video right here. I talk about it. I didn't just come up. One thing about me is my meta tags match my meta experiences. And I knew this a very long time ago. Well, I knew it in 1992 when I came across the Dehumanizer album by Black Sabbath and the song Computer God. And I was going through a dehumanizing process by my government, by some FBI people that had no business being FBI agents. And now they're older and now they're running cyber companies and that, and they're all corrupt, bad people. And they were able to fool their bosses, and their bosses have to believe them over the people that they interview, right? So this goes back to the book of Matthew. Matthew's book, Maddie's book, and the other book, the book of Revelations. We are now almost at the end times of book of Matthew. And see, when someone says, well, what do you know? What do you know about religion? I'll tell you what I know. It's right there. And everything I have on that thing is matched, colored, coded. See, I'm not going to show you. You have to figure it out. See if you can see between the lines. But this is where we're at, folks. You know? It's where we're at. And what Matthew Perry, my lighting sucks right now. But with Matthew Perry, he is someone that is being used now as a beacon of light, hope, all good things. And all the struggles that he did in his life is really none of our business, and he wrote about it in his book because he knew what was coming. That's all I'm going to say, folks. And the answers are right here when you look at the information, when you look down the line and the people that are remembering him and finally slowing down and looking what's going on in the world. So his death, it brings more to the storyline of where we are in the world than where he is now with Jesus. He's hanging out with him. And when you understand the book of Matthew and you understand John and you understand the Bible, and it's going to happen. The rumors of war, the war. We have, you know, artificial intelligence is doing its best to index all the people that are on both sides of the conversation. And you have clandestine organizations right now that attend every one of these walkouts by children from organizations and teachers and academia and government officials that allow our children, instead of being taught things to where we can prosper in the future, they keep them suppressed with their ideologies to go out and protest on shit they have nothing or know nothing about, because our fucking Denver public school systems are destroying the minds of our children, and they crushed mine. But I was there to save them from being further crushed like some other kids that have committed suicide. So we can learn a lot about the book of Matthew and then Matthew Perry's book. And when you understand the power of nine and where we are in civilization and the reality of who we are as humans and what we've done to this world and all the animals that live on it, that we are the trustees of, nah, man. Maddie ain't gonna go out like this, man. But I'll tell you what, in the 80s, I met some pretty bitchin' people. They probably don't remember me. And they remember the Corvette because I took them home. I took a lot of rock stars home, man, because I was the designated driver because I didn't get all fucked up. See, when you're fucked up and you take a muscle car and you go over Mulholland Drive, like that comedian did, but ruined a perfect Barracuda because he had no business trying to take a muscle car and drive slalom. That's why he's lucky he's still alive. I raced. I, Corvettes can do slalom. Barracudas can't do slalom. They're not designed for it. I raced Lamborghinis. I raced Yngwie Malmsteen in his TR7 or TR8. He had a V8 in it. It looked like a little piece of cheese. It was dark green. So I've done my series of racing, but I'm still here. We didn't do it when there was people around. We shut down streets. So when you know how to really race, you do it right and you respect the the laws of what churns your souls. In racing and stuff, they took away it from the schools where we could have all been hot, juicing. We could have been, battling each other with cars and music and girls. Now we're battling with guns and killing kids and crushing other people's businesses, and we're all told that don't believe what you see outside, believe what we tell you. And see, this is the whole thing about Matthew Perry and his ability to kick ass. And see, what he died of was because of the long use of his body just wasn't adapted for the chemical abuse that he did to his body. And so when he went out and played pickleball and he had a fun time, really busy day, his muscles were kind of messing him up. So he got into the jacuzzi hot tub. Anybody that's ever gotten in a hot tub, you can pass out in the hot tub um, and drown. And so That's pretty much what happened. There was no drugs there. There was no alcohol. But so it'll go to the coroner because law enforcement can only tell so much. The coroner is the tail of the tape. And then in order for him and everything to work out the way everyone claims to be in what artificial intelligence, because we haven't done any other type of advanced algorithms to find out what a group of people are talking about. And that's all, just metaverse stuff. But they're going to find out that he had that water in his lungs, and that he just passed out. He might not even have had a heart attack. He might have just got so exhausted at 54 years old on a body that he kind of abused over the years, and that's what happens. And what that is to tell everybody else that lived a lifestyle like that are young, or the guys in the 80s, like me. But I didn't do all that. I got to fight cancer, um, brain aneurysms, carotid aneurysms, cancer, and I get it. But if I did drugs as much as what people claim they said I did, I'd be dead, folks. Especially if I have carotid aneurysm. So when people start talking about shit they don't know, they go backwards. When you start talking about things you do know and you can place yourself in certain situations and know that why who I call Maddie Perry, Maddie. Hey, what's up? I'm Maddie. I'll never forget that, man. He called himself Maddie. Anybody that knows him knows. And see, certain people call themselves something else, and in their in things they don't know where they're at or where they go. That's what I do. If I go into a neighborhood I don't know, I respect everything. When I grew up, like in L.A. when we were selling candy, I'd walk around with no shirt. The reason why I would never go, oh, what, he thinks he's a badass? No. Even though I emulated Bruce Lee at 7 years old, I could do the one hand push ups, I could do all that, the finger push ups. We don't have tapes like that because we didn't have that kind of stuff. But when you see what I look like, you could put two and two together and go, yeah, he probably could do that. And I know there's a few pictures of me around somewhere. So, from my family, but I was exiled. I went from needing a home to wanting a home. I don't know. I was an orphan, so what do I know? I like talking about this kind of stuff because it keeps people's minds going and it makes you realize that we're all put here on this earth to do certain things. Some things are good, some things are bad, and some things just not at all. And that's how we come to where we are now in the world with all these wars and everything that's about to break out. And you have Democrat people and Republican people leading the charge on getting our children fucking killed. That's where it's at. And so this is way beyond friends now, folks. We're now talking transitional preparedness for the next. Um, then you'll know. So um, as you scroll down, you'll look at the different people that are paying psychotic rage. YT yesterday, today. This person needs to go in and change TikTok. No, TikTok's ruin, not ruining, ruling. Good morning, America. There we are. And that's going to be the conclusion of what the law enforcement find on how he died. And I put that together with algorithms and other things that I know. And I can't tell everything I know, but let me tell you, when you've been in especially the 80s all the way to the 90s, and you were part of that scene, and you lived there. I used to live on Laurel Canyon and 101 Freeway. I lived in those apartments with my wife, And my wife used to walk our two dogs. And Princess and Angel, they died when they were 20 years old. I'm still friends with my ex-wife. She's my best friend, man. She's an unbelievable person. People know her as Gina, the singer from Mighty Mo. And anyways, I remember a couple movie stars trying to pick up on my wife, and Rayo Ray, and my favorite actor, man. Uh, he played in the Chicago Bear movie. I'm not gonna say his name, but that's a story that not too many people believe it. You can ask um, Gina because she can tell you that yes, those actors, along with a bunch of other actors and musicians, were all over my wife until they find out it was me, and then they're like, "Oh, okay, man, yeah, respect my wife, respect her husband." I had to tell Rayo Ray his license plate, Rayo Ray. That's how I know. And the other guy, man, I swear, I'm not gonna say it, but he played next to in Brian Piccolo movie, and he's one of my I mean, he was my favorite actor, and then my favorite actor was trying to pick up on my wife, and that's how I knew my wife was something special, man, because she was the most beautiful girl in the world, man, and I can't say I went downhill from that, but you know, two Geminis have no business getting married, but they can stay best friends forever.